What's up, guys? Welcome to a little video we've been wanting to do for quite a bit here. We for our patrons who still support us. You may have seen our video patron podcast from about a week ago, but we wanted to do something more where we sat down, focus on what we were saying, and I have my notepad here. Colin has one. I don't know about Joey, but kind of addressing.
I'm free balling it.
The future of the channel, some of the things that you may have been noticing in the past. I'd actually say for the past month, because for the past 2 weeks, every time you'll just see the podcast come out, and really nothing else beyond that. I think the last thing we had was a FOW video that he did.
Yeah.
But even then, I think that was, 3 weeks ago?
No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, okay. But this is what this is. So this is kind of us kind of stepping up to it. So I'm going to go ahead and let you lead it here from that.
Yeah, so, and if you guys, I'd highly recommend, especially if you guys like us and our content, stick around for the whole video, because there'll be a couple different sections here, including the future plans for the channel and different things like that, which I'm actually really excited about some of the stuff we have planned, not only for the channel, but for us in general. So, we'll wait to talk about that, because I'm sure you guys are mainly wondering about the main stuff, which is, hopefully, I'm really hoping we have a clickbait title, but yeah, we are no longer going to be doing Force of Will in a general concept on the channel. So what that means is both on the channel and us personally, we're no longer going to be doing New Frontiers Force of Will. We won't be covering spoilers, different things like that. And the content we will do for Force of will be a little bit more sporadic, and it'll mainly be Epic Stories games and Conquer, which is a format subset of Wander games. And
maybe Popper too, things like that.
Yeah, and when applicable, we'll talk about Force of Will on the podcast. The podcast will pivot it to be more of an in general type of thing. We'll sort of figure it out as we go. But in a general sense, we're pretty much done with Force of Will as it is right now. Some of us might be more done than others, which we'll get into. And so I figured it'd be good to start off with the reason that we're doing this change, both on the channel and for us individually, for people who might be curious. And some of you probably can piece together most of it if you watch our content, at least for me, because I know Oscar's been a lot more positive about stuff, and he probably still is, but his reasons you guys probably aren't aware of, but some of my reasons you guys are probably very much aware of. So we can just sort of jump into that. I don't know who you want to start, Oscar.
We're going to lead with you. I feel, and then we just kind of I think because Joey didn't really have notes necessarily, but he'd probably feed into both of what we're saying, and he'd lead with his own thing at some point.
Like a succubus.
And I feel like most of the big umbrella stuff of the overarching structure of the company and stuff is what Colin has issues with, and so I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and I have kind of my own reasons, so I'm gonna let them go first and kind of do mine and mention I kind of agreed with this or agreed with that, but here's really my stuff behind it too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if I say something, it doesn't mean that's the reason Oscar or Joey is doing it or anything like that. We're we each have our own individual reasons, and some of the reasons cross over and stuff like that. But
I was just gonna say there's a lot of intersecting and crisscrossing of reasons, and Oscar, Colin might mention something, and I might agree with that, but Oscar might not have.
Yeah, so yeah, unless they say they agree with it, it's safe to assume that they don't agree with a reason I'd
probably go
vice versa.
Backwards, but anyways.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'll get into it, and these reasons aren't in any particular order. I just jotted them down. So Joy had mentioned, and so the original reason goes back to the new company and how the transition from the old to new company was handled, as well as how the new company handled Force of Will to date, which was the original transition happened with I Spy literally kicking out EG and Jeff and literally firing every single person at the company, with the exception of I think it's down to 2 people right now. I won't go into details just because I'm really bad at remembering which stuff is public that Jeff has talked about and which stuff is not. But the way that was handled, ever since that happened, I've had a hard time like being okay with that. Just from a personal perspective, if I really don't like that type of stuff of, hey, we're gonna just fire or get rid of these people, and now we're in charge. And then obviously the transition from them was extremely rocky with a lot of different things happening, and up until I would say a month ago, it's always been rocky until they finally, I don't know if they hired someone or what, but they finally start doing things like we saw with the recent GP with the deck list and stuff. But for me, that was way too little and way too late for that type of stuff. So if you guys have any thoughts on the overall company transition and structure there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with with pretty much all of what you've said. I like a lot of the decisions that we're also going to keep getting into is like, it's just, for me also, I agree with Colin that it's kind of been, and I won't say bad decisions, because, you know, people have different ideas and that stuff, but I liked where the company was going, and then I disliked where it, you know, went after this whole thing. And I feel like they've been not great decisions going forward since that's happened. Like, yeah, so I agree.
Oscar, or do you not have anything to say on that one?
The only thing I wanted to address was, like, you said there's like 2 people at the companies. Like, 2 is not the definitive answer. It's just like there's only a few people left at the company. It's a lot that's been reduced.
That is a definitive answer.
It's 2.
Yeah, it's okay. two or 3 people. Yeah, that is definitive.
But even to
that are officially company.
Okay.
The like designing the cards is outsourced to a separate company,
right, yeah,
which it always has been. That's not something new, but as far as people that actually work there, so I guess as a sort of extension of that, I think that always bugged me from the beginning was the company straight up, well, combination of, these are both in tandem, I guess. The lack of the communication. We went from being one of the most transparent TCGs in the industry, which was one of the appeals of it, to one of the least transparent companies in the industry, literally overnight. And with that also came something that really bothered with me, which was straight up lies from the company. Everything from when the transition happened, and then promising a statement regarding different people leaving, and we were promised that statement and it never came, to we were promised and they never do directly. They always work through other people. So through other people, we were told, hey, give us your questions, there'll be a Q&A, and that never happened. And when we followed up on that, we were told, oh yeah, the company says we followed up like several months later, and we were told the company said, oh, like next week it'll be out. Still to this day, the Q&A never came out. We were told through other people that the newest one was, we were told there wouldn't be any reprints in the newest set, and spoilers show there are reprints, and I'm blanking on some of the other. I had a low list in my head, but that really bothered me, that on top of no communication, the little communication we got was through other people, and like half of it turned out to just be them straight up lying just to get people to calm down about stuff and wait for it to pass, is what it felt like for some of it.
Yeah, on that, I kind of want to comment, like, when you say we had the best communication, that was most transparent with a card game, it's like, yeah, because nobody else does that, or ever did that. That's what separated us. And so now that we don't have that, and you see the people who use the excuse of, it's like every TCG, this is how it works, you know, what did you expect? It's like, right. That's what separated us from them. That's why I don't like that it's not happening anymore. Yeah, that was a big appeal. Like, a lot of people came to the game because of the transparency. It's like, that's not a good excuse when I hear that, to be honest.
Yeah, that was one of the most positive comments Rudy had gave when he was, whenever he would talk about Force of Will, was he loved the transparency, and that was his big glowing theme each time that he talked about it. And so you took that away, and if you took that out of his videos become like 1/10 the length of size, whether or not you like him or not, but just as an observation.
Agree.
Joey agrees. So I covered that. There's some random things also. I'll just mention as a side, like our locals dying. And there's only so many times our locals can die and us revive it, and it's just was genuinely a lot of work to keep our locals going, and we just don't have the
I want to comment on that. Like, it's one of the reasons why I think I'm stepping away as well. I had it on my notes here was no locals was because outside of COVID, there's just no locals. I tried so hard over and over and over again to keep it alive. And honestly, that's not my job. I shouldn't be doing that. And when people sit there and make the effort to do that, it's like, good job. You know, I'm not saying that you should be ashamed of what you're doing, but it's not your job either. You shouldn't actually be having to do that. You should be able just to go to your locals and play a game. And an event that's, you know, run by the store, not an event that's like, you know, I had to work hard to make sure everybody's going to go. Are we going to hit 6? Are we going to hit 8? I had 13 people confirmed they're going to go on the event invite, but 5 people showed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not my job to sit there and promote this game the way that we have, because I'm already doing the channel. That's already doing the job, half the job. You know, I don't need to do it locally as well. So that's kind of a big issue I have with it as well.
And it's doubly worse because not only were we, and especially Oscar, working really hard to keep the locals going, but the reason the locals would die was almost always the company's fault. Whether it be Scheherazade killed the locals, Prisha killed our locals before we even came on the scene. Reflective Refrain killed the locals that was there beforehand. It's always been something where we can literally see, okay, this became strong. People brought it to the locals. Oh, look, we're down to me, Oscar, and 1 or 2 other people again. We'll build it up. Oh, don't worry, it's banned. We're a good, healthy format, and kabam. Then it happens again. And
it's different everywhere. We held great communication with everybody at our locals. Like, we're friends with a bunch of our locals. There's an awesome Discord group. We're all in it. We communicate about other games. So when we say it was because of these certain powerful rulers and really strong decks, it's because that's what they told us. Like, oh, I don't like the Scheherazade thing, I'm out. And like 3 or 4 people would leave because of those reasons.
Yeah. And sort of with that, like I said, we've had those overpowered things, but right now specifically the power creep that's been in the game since the new company took over has been a lot different than what we've seen in the past. What we've seen in the past has been a couple strong combos here and there, or a really strong single ruler is usually the thing that does it. What we're seeing is across the board, just really strong cards and combos. We saw it with the past GP where every deck, for the most part, was that did good was an altar combo of some sort, but all the cards around them are really strong as well, and we're seeing that in the spoilers as well. And it's one of the things that if you watch the channel, you know, I had always been afraid of Force Will becoming Yu-Gi-Oh! And both in the sheer volume of text, even when the text doesn't need to be that much, combined with the power creep be going out of control. And that's just something that I personally don't have fun with. I know it might be better for the more competitive side of it, but that's never been my thing or the channel's thing, really. And so this power creep is not something where you can just ban a card like before with Scheherazade. It's like, okay, well, if you ban Scheherazade, that fixes most of the problems and stuff like that. There's no like single couple cards you can ban because the power creep is so much that's just across the board. Everything, the games are always going to be like really small amount of turns going forward, I think.
I also think it's important to address that a lot of the power creep is no matter who's been in charge of the company. We brought up the issues with the move from company 1 to company 2 because of the way it worked and the things that happened. And I think we understand that it doesn't matter who was there, if it was Jeff, if it was EG, if it was whoever's there now, there's always been a power issue in general. And our last locals, I think, fired off an event, and it was for set 1 pre-release. And that's because pre-releases always at least had 8 people show up because everybody wanted the new cards. And that's the last thing that ever happened. It really just melted after that. And because locals in general, just to meet up and play games, never met up. It was just they wanted to show up for the pre-release, and then they took off, and that was it.
Yeah. And with that, the overall card quality...
Hold on.
Oh, good.
One of my main reasons also that I kind of wanted to get into was like the way power creep has been working with like between sets is like you keep getting these rulers that get released, and they're considered kind of the best these rulers kind of start coming out, and they're considered kind of the best rulers. Kind of happened with Melgus, not really too much in set 1, but Melgus was definitely considered one of the top decks. But then as soon as the set 2 came out, the power transferred to the set 2 rulers. I'm blanking. Who was in set 2? Was it Priscia?
Priscia, Machina, Valentina.
Yeah, it was like Priscia and Machina dominated set 2, and they came to like rise to the top. And then once set 3 came out, now it's like Arla and Sigurd and like that stuff, and like that is now, that kind of replaced the top deck, and so it's like stuff that was strong like Melgus is now not really being built. Stuff like Priscia that was strong is not really being played either. It's like each set completely replaces the meta with, and I feel like for like a deck builder, like I was really excited to build like Valentina, but she's not even a question, because now that we got this next set, they have all of the best rulers, and I'm afraid that when set 4 comes out, all this stuff that we did think was really strong is now going to be like, I don't want to make a Reflector Frame deck, because once set 4 comes out, like all those decks are just going to be the best decks now. And so I feel like that deck progression of like the set progression is really poor for people who enjoy deck building and stuff. Like I'm not, and yeah, so it's kind of like a little function of the power creep, but I wanted to highlight like just the way the decks kept replacing the previous strong decks is very it's very annoying.
And on that note, like we've had Jeff a long time ago on the podcast when he was explaining why he was there and things he wanted to do, and it's a cultural thing. Like everybody sees these strong cards and they're pretty much Sigurd altars in every deck because that's just how they run now. Is because I remember him saying that that's how Japanese players play the game. It's one deck and that's the best deck, and they want to see who does it the best. So that's kind of the, I don't want to say how it's always going to be, but it's pretty much what it's looking like right now. Each set that came out, one deck's the best type of thing, which, we're scrubs. What do we really know, I guess. But I just want to bring that up because people always bring it up in certain groups. And it's just like, that's kind of the culture of Japanese card games is that.
Yeah, which is why they needed someone like Jeff, especially now that they don't even sell the game in Japan. It doesn't make sense to go by those standards, but... the next day was a sort of card quality, which I don't mean the cards themselves, because the print quality has been fine, although we'll see how it is for the next set. But the getting, for me personally, once again, this is me personally, getting rid of the textured full arts might sound like a silly thing, but that actually was a big blow for me, because one of my favorite things in any card game is to collect these sort of textured full art cards. That was my favorite thing for Pokemon. When I came into Force of Will, the stamp was kind of cool, but what like stuck me in Force of Will is when they did that switch to texture. I was like, oh, they're playing my jam now. And so it felt weird to backtrack out of that, and now there's nothing distinguishable between the cards of a full art SR versus a full art common, on top of them using like reusing art, especially for promos and stuff like that, is kind of annoying. But and then obviously and on that same track, the most recent design change was for me that was like the nail in the coffin. I was like, okay, I'm done with this, because this design change, I won't go over it again. You can go watch the podcast where we talked about it, but even to I was just telling Oscar to this point where I'm still looking at spoilers, and it's still taking me a minute to like figure out what type of card it is, what the cost is, what the attack and defense is. Like I'm having to scan the card because nothing about it is intuitive, in addition to just being super ugly. Especially the full art is like a crime, I think. But
to add on to that, I'm definitely not excited about that. I think it was a huge step in the wrong and a huge step backwards, and I never feel like we should be stepping backwards in this kind of stuff. And on top of that, I do feel like to go back to call, the new company's business policies, I think this is kind of a scummy move just to save money. And I don't, I don't want to support that kind of stuff and that kind of like scummy business. You know, cutting corners just because, you know, they want to make more money or whatever their reasoning is. But
yeah. Oscar.
I never had issues with like the texture part of things. As a matter of fact, if you always watch like podcasts where, or even spoilers, whatever it was, where we discovered, oh, there's no textures in the set. I would always ask questions. I would always question Colin, like, how much can you really tell that through the sleeve? You know, I'm not asking him to answer now, but I'm just saying, like, that was always me, that I didn't have an issue with losing textures. I always enjoyed just having the full art in general on the sleeve. The only time I ever had card quality issues was probably back when, and it was even Jeff and Ishii who were in charge back then, with was it Time Spinning Witch, which like you could feel the ink coming off of your hands and things like that, and it improved. The recent sets we've opened them. I don't think there's any card quality texture issues. I didn't like the choice that the new company had with a lot of the reprints of memorial cards, or even a lot of the certain reprints just in the set in general, like Gwyber. It's just one on the top of my head. It's not one I want to use an example of per se, but
I totally forgot about those weird like life point cards and all that stuff.
Yeah, which looks like they continue with. I guess that's fine. You know, you have a little bit of more reason to buy product. I think the reason why it bothered me so much as well leading up to this point was the slow loss of interest. There's people who were pumped about it. There's people who were brand new to the game who were buying product, and like if that was me, I get it. Like I'd probably be buying so much product that having point cards or even a reprint memorial card wouldn't be as much of a bother to me, and it may be something I appreciate a little bit more, because I'd be like, cool, I wasn't here back then, I have this now. But that's such a small portion of, I guess, the community you're supplying to, that I don't know. I didn't enjoy a lot of what happened earlier on the set. So things could change going forward. That changed my mind on that. We'll see what happens. I want you to keep going before because I think we'll talk on that as well.
Yeah, I just have one more thing, and then whatever you guys have. And also, like I said, stay tuned to the end of the video. Because, also, if you guys have any questions about stuff, you can post them in the comments below. And there'll also be other avenues for you guys to ask questions, which we'll get into later. But and the last thing I had was the sort of community itself feels like it's changed as well. Because before, there would always be sort of criticisms of the game, even from Jeff himself. And that was sort of like, because of that open communication, it felt like, hey, my voice may or may not be heard, but you know, if I point this out, it might change. And now I've noticed that the community has slowly changed to almost to the point where, for the most part, obviously not a blanket thing, but any type of criticism is much more frowned upon. The game, like, you can't talk as bad about the game. Like, people have actually gotten mad at even Jeff himself for pointing out things about the game, and things like that. And it's to a point where you can, we were talking about a little bit before, like I've had exchanges with people higher up in the, more prevalent in the game, that just because I'm critical about something, and I've been accused of being a liar. I've been accused by mods in the group of being a misogynist, and all these different crazy things. And it's like, this it feels completely different. Why am I not allowed to criticize? Sure, I might get stuff wrong, and I think I've been pretty consistent about apologizing for stuff, but like the community as a whole feels like it's different than it was before. Mm-hmm. It's definitely feeling more and more like how Verbank was back in the day and stuff like that, which I was not fond of that back in the day. And so this unfortunately is feeling like it's turned around, because when I criticize something, it's because I enjoy it and I want to see aspects change for the better. If I didn't criticize it, then it would just stay stagnant, and then we would, even though it's already happening now, we would keep losing people to from the game and stuff like that. But now everyone seems to want to turn a blind eye to different things, and all that.
No, I would definitely say it's not as toxic as, say, Burbank City was.
That's why I said on the road.
Yeah, that group scarred me to the point when we came to this new Force of Will community, I wouldn't make a post. Like, Colin would have to make posts on my behalf because I refused to. I almost still do. It's gotten to the point where it's like, not like that, but it's more like you can't really have an opinion on something because you're just told you're wrong on your opinion. But it's like, it's an opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can have these feelings, and I have these feelings right now. Why are you telling me I shouldn't? It's like, this is how I feel right now, and it's kind of how I feel like that part has gone. I just want to touch on that.
Yeah, and I've always made a point of mentioning or saying that I don't. I try not to. Obviously, I filter some stuff, but I try just to be as honest as I can about stuff, because I don't want to just like go a certain way. I don't want to be like intentionally negative about the game, just because I feel negative about it, and the reverse of that. I don't want to be overly positive about it just because I like it and want it to grow. I try to just be as honest as I can, and even though I do filter quite a bit of stuff. Both on my own or people might ask me to and stuff like that, but it's still even with that to be told like, oh, your opinion you can't have that's incorrect, and it's like, no, I'm definitely, in my point of view, I'm correct in saying I miss texture cards and I think they were better. I think the new design is terrible. Other people can like it, but I'm just talking about me personally with that, and I'd like to do or say, maybe I can I don't want to get too much into specifics, but maybe I can say, I don't know, like have a banter and say that it was a joke, and people could maybe, I don't know, not call me a liar for that. That would be nice. But yeah. I don't know if you have much thoughts on this, Joey, because you don't really participate in the community very much.
Yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts about it, so I'll just leave it at I think I think you guys are validated in your opinions and how you feel.
I appreciate it, Oscar. Or you can. That's all I have for.
And for anybody still listening, it's not going to be super much longer. It's a few little things, but on the product of things and how we had all the reprints and the memorial cards, like when we used to get sets, we would get, obviously we have a channel sponsor, Happy Little Hug Factory. Shout out to them. You can always visit them in the link description down below, and they will continue to be a channel sponsor going forward. It's just that we would get our sets, we'd open them up, and I'd always do an inventory of what I have and trade with Colin and see if I can get, like, first initially a deck I want to build, and then after that just place its cards, and I would either buy another box, buy singles, and to fulfill that. And like ever since the new sets have been coming out, I stopped doing it completely, which is one of the things I want to bring up at the tail end of what you're talking about. Is just a slow, loss of interest in it. There's no GPs this season. That's understandable though, because it's out of the control of many card game company hands that we can't have it. But it's just, fueling the fire as to why I've slowly lost interest. Now, next season could be a full-blown season. Who knows, right? It could be everything is okay with the world again, and we can keep going on the way things maybe were before, or a little bit different than they were before. So we'll see how that turns out. And then I'm going through each of these right here. The design issues that you guys had, I don't have issues with per se. I've kind of gotten over most of them. The only thing that kind of stands out is like I do wish keywords were a little easier identifiable, where I don't have to actually sit there and like, okay,
on the
new card design. And then the full art cards, like still having the little border around where the text box would be, it's kind of like I miss when it was just a straight full art card. It felt a little bit better. But this doesn't necessarily bother me, and a reason why I'm like, I see it, I'm like, ugly, I'm gonna stop playing this game. I've seen those comments in the groups, and that it is a bit extreme in my opinion to say those things. It's just it's relearning, and it changes the game. It does change the game. It doesn't feel like it's the same game before, because it changes the way you identify and read a card now. I see a card like the other day in spoilers, and I'm like, oh wait, what is this? It's up here now. It's an edition. Okay, this is a 2-cost edition. It's black white, because the borders tell me it's black white, not because I see will symbols somewhere identifying it being a black white card. Even though I know sometimes that's associated in the cost of it, and it just takes learning to read the card again. You can say something?
And I want to say real quick for people who might be saying like, there's been a design change before and you guys like the new design. The difference is, I think, like the intuitivity of it, like going from the original design of Force of Will to the previous design before the new design. That transition I felt like was so much easier, because the new cards were meant, sorry about my fan, to be intuitive. Maybe when you come over, Oscar, we'll redo my computer setup. And so when you transition to those, even though you didn't know where the attack and defense was technically versus the old card or the things, when you look at that card, for us, since we read left to right, it was like, okay, let me look at this card. Oh, attack and defense, right where I see it. Here's, the cost, big electricity for that quick cast symbol. I've decided I hate it, by the way. Mm-hmm. Electricity for the quick cast, all the stuff. Like, it was intuitive enough that it took a very short amount of time for me to learn it. Much shorter amount of time than what's currently taking me for the new design. And so that's where I think the difference is just from a design perspective. The previous design is just objectively better in every sense of the word. And that's why this change is different than the last change. I just wanted to mention that for anyone who might bring.
So a lot of the reasons why I've lost interest in Force of Will don't necessarily get tied to the company, but maybe some things that we do on our part. When we made the channel, it was fun. It was something brand new, something I hadn't really done before, and I just wanted to record some gameplays. I just feel like over time, more and more became expected of us as a channel of what we're doing, with the content we're producing. It kept having to get higher and higher and higher, and that may have been also how I interpret the feedback on my part. So that's why I kind of wanted to take that step backwards in this decision and also make it more casual again. Like, I want to have fun. I want to go, we'll talk about what the future is here in a few seconds if you're still here listening. I also hope that if you're still here and you're listening, that you've wait till we're near the end to gather your opinions on the things that we said, to comment. I know some of you may have some things to say, positive or negative or whatever it is. Just, I feel like you need to hear everything out to be able to understand that it's, to me, it's like the old joke of it's not you, it's me. It's not the community and Force of Will and everything like that. It's ultimately my decision, and I'm not convincing anybody here that's listening that you should leave because this is why I'm leaving. I'm just letting you know that if you come to this channel because you expect content out of it, this is why it's going to look a little bit different going forward. That for you to expect this.
I think that's important to emphasize. Is we're not saying, hey, everyone should leave Force of Will, because if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. We're just talking about us personally, because I know that's another thing we've been accused of is getting people to leave, which has never been our intention. But if you guys enjoy it, by all means, keep playing it, spread it to your friends, especially if you have locals. That's something to look forward to when you come out of COVID and all that, and you have the OLS online series and stuff. Like, Cal's doing some great work with that. Mike and his little team of people working on Conqueror. There's a lot of great people in the community. You don't necessarily need us, and I don't think us leaving is hurting anything. And it's not us holding something and then just dropping it out of our hand and like, I'm done with this, and angry leaving the room. This is us just moving to the back of the room and being like, we're gonna do our own thing, like, in this corner over here for a bit that looks a little different than what we've done before. And we'll try to remember too, in the description, I think we should link a couple channels that people may or may not be aware of that cover Force of Will, like Little Scout, Ranmau's restarting his channel and stuff like that. If you guys really you're like, oh man, they're not doing Force of Will really anymore, and I still want to get my fix. There's other channels besides us and Ruler School, so definitely check those out if you see them in the description.
And we'll put Ruler School there stuff too, just in case there is some percentage chance that you don't watch Jeremy.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I think you all are aware of him and watch his content.
And I think the last thing you want, or do you have anything else to say?
No, that was it. That was all my little points. It wasn't a lot. Like I said, a lot of it tied into what Colin had.
Did you cover like how like you felt the New Frontiers is like really stale with their card design too? So I kind of feel like that's another.
I guess I did forget to like it feels into that everything. Like, I think I even coined the phrase when we were going over the podcast of cookie cutter. Everything felt the same in general. Yeah. And a part of the joy that I had was like, oh my gosh, look at this Dark Elf ruler. Whoa, so neat. Or, oh man, I'm going to go play Ayu next. Or when I got into the game, Dark Alice. And I feel like that's kind of gone. It's more like, oh, look at ruler A1, B2, C3, or I did it wrong. A1, A2, A3. And then it's like set 2 came out and it's like the same type of thing, like B1, B2, B3. It's like I lost that like part of the joy of being like, man, this is a really unique ruler, and this is my ruler. This is who I represent right here. It lost that feel for me, which is part of the joy for me when I was playing the game was the unique ruler. And it was always like when we were playing with all of us, it'd be like, oh dang it, Colin's running Sylvia, I can't do that too. Then go find my other unique. I'm gonna do Machina, something like that. It was always like that part of it, and now it's just kind of
it's nice having your own unique deck and something that like you had in this cluster. I kind of wanted to go through one last part of like why like my like decision and stuff too. Basically, I've been after I left Texas, I did a lot of like basically following Colin and Oscar's leads. Like I already hadn't been contributing to the channels nearly as much. And throughout, this whole, it's been like 4 years now. My involvement with Force Will has always kind of been like a little sine wave of like up and down and stuff. So, so whether it's been like, I want to try the OLS because Oscar and Colin are trying the OLS, or it's like, or Oscar's wants to go to, wants to start grinding more New Frontiers and doing more decks. It's like, okay, Oscar, I'm going to make a bunch of decks with you. Or if it's like, oh, Colin's going to Las Vegas, I'm going to go to Las Vegas because it's really close to me. Like, I've always pretty much followed, since I left, I'd say I've been kind of following their lead and, kind of, this is like a group channel and stuff. And I, like, if I have had a lot of issues with Forceful, and so, it's been kind of this up and down thing. But I think, I'm going to be following them and we're going to be stepping back a whole lot from Forcible. And so this is just kind of something that for me, there's a bunch of points where you can say like, oh, Joey isn't even playing Forcible, but, or I did get really into Forcible. It's, basically that's kind of, I'm at the low point of like New Frontiers isn't very interesting. Colin and Oscar aren't even, I can't remember the last time we played it. So there's a lot of like disinterest, and there's a lot of like mirroring involved where if they're very excited about it, then I start getting very excited about it, and if they're not excited about it, then I'm pretty much dead in the water about it. So just wanted to point that out too. It's definitely kind of a thing for me. That's another really important thing, that if my friends aren't interested in playing anything, then I just lose interest in it as well a lot of the time.
Yeah, and we will be getting Joey back in Texas, but he's still not going to be right next to us where we can do something more often. So it'll be like a 3-hour drive. Texas is huge, so it takes a while to drive certain parts of it.
Yeah. And we'll definitely be trying to get together for like epic stories and stuff and different content that we are still excited about. So because, I know Oscar loves epic stories, so I'm very excited about playing more epic stories. So it's just that kind of stuff.
Because in the end, like I said, with the whole channel thing is I want to go back to having fun and not like, oh, I need to put a video out this week. I made this deck. I don't know how to run it. Okay, I kind of had fun, I guess. I want to go back to like I said, just pure fun. We recorded it, and you guys get to enjoy that too.
Yeah, which you could probably tell I haven't had fun with New Frontiers for a while, but I'm excited for like epic stories and Conquer and all that. And so the last thing Oscar wanted to ask before we move on to like what we're going to be doing now with the channel and some exciting stuff about that, you want to know, Oscar, like you want to pose the question, would we ever come back to Force Will in the future?
Yeah. If you guys want to start the answering on that, like what would bring you back? Like what happened in the future? Let's just pretend a year and a half down the road, we're living in a world where we can just roam freely and go back to our locals or do a GP, no risk, and what would bring you back to the game?
I'll start mainly because this kind of follows what I've already talked about. I think a lot of my interest and interaction in Forceful was because of you two. So I feel like if the thing that I would need is like a locals coming up, and on top of that, like friends around me who are interested in doing that. So if you guys got reinvigorated into Forceful and you wanted to jump into, if there's a GP coming around town that you wanted to go to, I would definitely do something like that. Or even if down the line you guys got really excited and back into it, I would definitely start jumping back into it as well.
I would say for me, like I wouldn't say I will never say never about anything, but the only thing that would probably get me back is honestly just if like Easy and Jeff came back. Honestly, at this point, just I feel like my interest in it has dwindled enough that I like we'll get to what we're some of the other stuff we're going to be doing now. Like I'm more excited about that stuff, and I can't see too much that would bring me back. Like maybe if it was like insane card redesign with crazy art and they completely reset the game so it's balanced, like I could maybe, but even then I'd still be iffy just because it still comes down to like locals and stuff like that. So but the thing that regardless of any of that would bring me back is if they brought back the original team, which probably won't happen, but I think as of right now, I'm to the point where I'm kind of past it personally, and I'm more excited about some of the stuff on the horizon, especially if you've been seeing some of the other content I've been doing. I've been enjoying that a lot more. But yeah,
for me, it's multiple things, and then like if not all like conditions are met, it's kind of like but it goes to one, the card design, as in like what we're seeing, like the unique rulers and the fun aspect of it coming back to it. And then I could see that and be like, oh, Joey, Colin, look at this. It's pretty neat, right? And if they weren't pumped about it or even willing to start playing it, then I probably wouldn't even return to it. But in the event that they did, like whatever brought them back into it, and we all start playing it again, then locals, GPs, things like that, and like events for me to attend and go to, and really seeing the community come alive, and it coming back to being fun again to play it would probably bring me along back, and that's really it. I do want to say before we move on to like maybe the future of the content of this channel and things like that, things that we're going to talk about next, is I hope that all our points made sense to you, and that we really articulated the points well enough that you understand where we all kind of came from, and that we're each different in our approach to why we kind of left a lot of what we were doing and what we're going to do going forward. So hopefully that made sense. And then Colin, what do you have?
Yeah, so next we're talk about, like I said, the future of the channel.
Colin totally switched to the moderator now.
Oscar, within the first minute, I switched it off to him. Like, Colin, you want to go ahead?
I saw, but
I saw you.
But I was kind of like, no, I don't think so. I was like, I don't think he's doing that on purpose. But then right there, I was like, oh, I know he's doing that on purpose. I was like, that's evil.
So, as far as in general stuff, like we'll obviously have mainstays like the podcast, like you said, that's switching up. But as far as like stuff we'll be covering, me personally, I'm gonna still do my indie game coverage, both the interviews and reviews for indie games. I'm gonna try and do a news thing for independent games. I keep meaning to do it, and just stuff keeps happening. But hopefully, I'll get to it soon. I actually just had a card game come into the mail today, so I'm looking forward to take a look into that. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep doing Spellweaver. You guys have noticed I've been uploading videos of that. I'm going to try to be more consistent with those uploads. I'm currently going through the campaign and recording that and doing fun voices for all the different characters in the campaign and stuff. So if you guys are interested in that. And then the sort of two big things that we'll be doing is one, as far as like us as a whole, as a channel, well, not so much Joey, because obviously Joey's not here physically, but is when it does come out, Alternate Souls is a big one that I'm still very much looking forward to. Once the Kickstarter and all that finishes up, or starts first and then finishes up, getting that I'm still excited for. And that's something I want to cover consistently when it does come out. And the other was, I guess we'll test it. We'll test the waters, see if people like it. But we're gonna try and do Pokemon. We have some trainer kits coming in the mail, and so it'll be super late, but maybe we'll do a box opening with that. I still have my old deck built, so maybe we'll do a throwback game and sort of just to gauge interest. And we could also be doing the Pokemon Online, which I know Oscar likes, and actually has a really cool new mode coming out, which we definitely would want to do.
Raids.
So, yeah. Those are sort of the main themes that we'll be covering on the channel. Obviously, it might vary depending on your guys' feedback, but the main theme in the immediate future potentially is Pokemon and Spellweaver in my indie games, and then Alternate Souls would come at a later date. Anything you want to say about that, guys?
Before Joey gets on and says no to Pokemon, but I would say like the key of it is, again, we're coming back to the things that we're having fun with doing, and we came from Pokemon 2 Force of Will, and so we're kind of dabbling in that again. So that's kind of why that took place. A lot of you here are not necessarily only here because of Force of Will. A lot of y'all here because lots of various card games, lots of various indie card games, lots of various interests. When it comes to people who play card games, you play a lot of card games. I've met many people who's like, oh, we're playing Force of Will, but that's not even their main, that's their side. Or they have like 6 card games they're in, or they're playing Force of Will, and then like I'm hanging out talking to everybody, you see somebody jump up like, I'm gonna go do an MTG draft or whatever. It's like, wow, people who play card games really play all card games. And I think with kind of the way things have been with the channel, it's like TCG Scrubs, we never fully took advantage of that because I think we felt like such a large amount of you were just for the Force of Will content, but many of you are here for a lot of stuff. And the podcast has always been like my baby that I helped make sure it was something we did. We did it initially and it flopped, and then we reapproached it with what we were doing now with the 3 of us and how we've been doing it, and I feel like it's been going really well. The podcast will be much more broad. It's not going to be centralized again around Force of Will. I understand if you don't want to listen to it anymore because of that. It's going to take us maybe a few episodes to get our footing, to find out how we're talking about things. Because like if me and Colin are talking about Pokemon, Joey's not going to be interested in that because I already know he's not interested in that. But it doesn't mean that this is a Pokemon channel or that's what's going to happen. We're going to see how that plays out. Like you guys have been listening to that. Pretty awesome. I don't know how to phrase this. It's pretty cool. You look at our channel and like in the playlist, or just look at the podcast, and it's like, yeah, you get 100 to 200 plays, and back in certain better parts of the year you get maybe higher amounts. But like if you look at all our plays on that podcast with adding on or the people who are only audio only listeners, like we're already well over 10,000 plays in that podcast, and we're 115 episodes in. And I'm honestly impressed with that number because I'm like, wow, I helped make this, and that many of you are listening to us, which is really cool. So, and I think a good part of it is you enjoy kind of the banter between the 3 of us and how we may be with each other. Like the way we were a few seconds ago with Colin leading it. But
speaking of the podcast, we're going to be experimenting with some stuff. Like you can see in the background, I got a blue couch there. And so we're going to have a soundboard here. And so we're going to try some in-person stuff as well.
Yeah.
See how that goes. I'm going to... Yeah.
Real quick, that is like we had a soundboard donated to us from a patron, and I was the only one really using it, but it was like this like 8-channel mixer, and I was like, I'm only using it for one microphone. I finally downgraded mine to a normal like 2-channel mixer, which is really just for I looked up videos like for one mic and one instrument, but I'm using it for the one mic. I have so much more desk space, which is amazing now. And then we're gonna, obviously put a lot more effort into the podcast and do something more personal. Like, and whether or not you see that on this channel or if we do something different, we don't know. That's still something we're working on right now. With Joey being 3 hours away, we can't always guarantee he's gonna be there for that one. Especially if that ends up being like an hour or 2 hours, whatever that ends up being. Because just start talking, whatever happens, right? Joey?
No, I just thought Colin's lead up to that was just the way I imagined it. He's like, yeah, we've been experimenting with some really cool podcast stuff. See, we've got a blue chair now. It's like that was the focus.
That's why I got that chair.
That's why.
He's like, check out this blue chair. That's a new podcast thing. It's a blue chair. Anyways, no, but I wanted to bring up. I feel like we've completely haven't brought up the whole we're planning on streaming video games and stuff.
That was the next thing I was about to do a big thing for that.
Okay.
So the other thing is,
but real quick, Joey, real quick, is not interested in Pokemon, and he's made that clear to us. Like, and we're not going to force him to play any games because, like I said, I want him to have fun just the way we're having fun. If he's not having fun. I'll
dabble with it, but I have no guarantees on.
I think, it's in response to what you said, Oscar. I think he would still be good for conversation and stuff because it's still cool to talk about like. Oh, Blastoise! Oh, he sounds pretty strong. He does that without actually playing the game. You can still have discussion about Pokemon in the same way you were talking about. You did with the spoiler videos with Ardent Saga, even though you didn't play. I think I don't play Pokemon, but I was still like Oscar would show me stuff and be like, "Oh, that looks super cool." I haven't played it.
And I have and those words of Pokemon spoilers were right next to each other. I don't have any intent of doing Pokemon spoiler videos, just to be clear.
As of right now, but. And I want to tag real quick. I'm gonna wait to see after COVID, but there's always a chance I could bounce back into Argent Saga just because I really like the locals for that. So just by me playing locals, just content from that could come easily for me personally. I know neither of these guys would probably play it, but just throw that out there.
I won't. It was always weird. Like it felt like a relationship, like I was cheating on somebody, and by going to go play Argent Saga, just because of how it all kind of took place and gym and all that. I probably won't, but our locals were a lot of cool people who play that game, who I liked to enjoyed being around. There were some cool dudes.
So on the thing that Joey said, the other thing is we as a subset of that, we're also going to be doing a slight rebrand of the channel, which will be coming later, both visually and the name. Like, the name won't change that much, but just to better identify the broad spectrum of stuff we'll do, because we're also going to be launching streaming channels. And we already have one for, like, TCG Scrubs and stuff like that. But what we're doing this time around is we're each going to have our own individual streaming channel. So I have mine under my moniker of Spaded. Oscar has his, and Joey has his, and Melissa has hers. She'll be streaming as well. And so we'll each have our own individual streams. So if you guys have I really don't like how negative Colin is, so I'm going to go watch Oscar, you can have that choice now, and then we'll still do stuff together. Just you could pick your point of view of whose stream you want to watch. And that's the avenue I was also thinking of. Like, I'll probably be streaming on it this week, for example, my personal channel. So if you guys have further questions and want to just have a dialogue about stuff regarding this or anything else, you can come join that. I already streamed last Friday. I streamed like an hour and a half or 2 hours of Spellweaver. Had a cool discussion with the guy that was on there. And it'll be a bunch of different stuff. It could be Spellweaver. It could be us playing epic stories. It could be us playing League of Legends or Minecraft. It'll be a regular streaming channel. And then we may or may not take those and put together highlights for this channel. Like, I know for Spellweaver, I streamed it, and I'm going to chop it up into 2 videos and upload them as my regular Spellweaver videos, stuff like that. And so the idea is, like I said, we'll have all these different individual channels under the umbrella of TCG Scrubs, and it'll all funnel back into our channel and stuff like that. But we'll have our individual ones, in addition to maybe once in a while streaming to the TCG Scrubs main channel and stuff like that. And we're currently working on all the branding and stuff like that. But I'm really excited about that. And we'll have consistent schedules, and we're going to try and work on consistent upload schedules on YouTube side of it. So it'll hopefully be now that it'll hopefully feel less like a chore when we do content now. We'll be able to better, I think, help with our consistency of content overall. Yeah, because we together as a group play a lot of games together, so it's kind of like, if you want to see that, it's like, why don't we offer that for you to check out? So there'll be a lot of links. You can see I get mad at more stuff than just Force of Will.
Yeah, and we'll have a lot of links in the description below on this video for you to check out several things. I think he mentioned one earlier. And Joey, I don't know if y'all know this, but it's really, really, really good at TFT, Team Fight Tactics, which is an offshoot of what is in the League of Legends client by Riot. And he can't say no. I think I've only seen him in the last 50 games get anything below a 3rd place one time. And I think that's just because he was just completely BSing a build he wanted to do in the game that time. And a lot of us fell into as people say, fell into the nuts of it. We got a really good comp and just took him out or whatever. But Joey, you can say no all you want. You're a top 3 finisher in like 99% of your games.
So nice.
He's like,
yeah, no, I'm actually pretty excited because like I've like dabbled in streaming before with my friend. I've dabbled with streaming. I've jumped onto his stream every Friday. We actually did like an entire year's worth of Fire Emblem randomizer runs. I don't know if anybody knows what that's about, but and then we played. After that, we did. Oh my gosh, I don't remember. But anyway, so I've kind of dabbled in it. I'm kind of excited to kind of jump back into it. If I do, I've always really not enjoyed streaming because I felt like it was like every time I felt like I've been streaming, especially with anybody who I've been streaming with, it's always been kind of like a thing where it's like, oh man, we're doing this in order to make it big, and like, I just don't want to do it just for fun. I kind of want to get really big into it, and I want to do all this stuff, and so I'm gonna try, and if when I do go back to streaming, and like I'm just gonna take it the furthest casual, most backed up that I can do it. But on that note, I am really excited though because it's gonna be pretty cool, like getting to just play more games too with Ostracon. Like we had to play a lot of games, so it's gonna.
Yeah, we do a lot of games together. We also do a lot of games on our own. I know I played Pokemon on my Switch with Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly shiny hunting. So if you want to hang out with me while I'm doing that, you can come and hang out. These guys are a lot better at talking while they're doing things, and I'm more of like focused on what I'm doing. So I feel like I'd be better just with interacting if you're in a chat as opposed to like Joey can give like, it's going back to TFT. He gives like a play-by-play, like, oh man, what am I doing? Oh, what's this? Oh, wow, he's going. Oh, he has Blitz cranking a coin to grab my karma or whatever. So he's a lot better at something like that to keep you entertained if you're not just lurking or something like that. But and Colin's not bad. Watch you, Colin. You're pretty good. But Joey's really good.
I've been. It's harder when you're by yourself. But
yeah,
I've streamed a lot. Yeah, I've streamed a lot by myself just to get the practice in because like all it is just like I'm trying to transfer the dialogue that's in my head out, and so I think I've gotten relatively good at it. Like the main thing that I play is regular League of Legends, and so that's I think where I do best at as far as that, just because playing League of Legends is like pretty much second nature at this point because of how a lot Joey too. We both played League of Legends since just after season 1, I believe, of when it came out.
It was before season 1. It was like
during season 1,
mid season 1, a little bit maybe early season 1, but I don't think so. I think it was like mid season 1.
But
long time.
I don't play League of Legends unless it's like a fun mode. We have a fun mode coming up,
which
is Nexus Blitz.
Nexus Blitz.
I don't know if we're 2 weeks away or a month away from that. So that's something to look forward to. We'll probably be streaming a bunch of it. It's just a variety of games: Minecraft, Terraria, Valorant, Teamfight Tactics. These guys will do League. I'll do Fun League. I do Pokemon. I do shiny hunting. I really want to do competitive at some point. That'd be a lot of fun. I've been talking to Roderick about some teams and stuff like that recently. But that's kind of what you have to look forward to. I know we've been going at this for about 1 hour now, which is like a podcast form. Yeah. So hopefully you hung out with us. If you leave a comment below, and it's more of a critical one where if I find it necessary to reply to, I will. But I might wait a day. Just make sure you watch the entire video from beginning to end before I reply. And if not, just let us know what your thoughts are.
If you have a question for one of us specifically, also make sure you name who you're addressing. We'll be sure to reply to it as well.
Yeah. Real quick, I thought it was so funny when Colin's like, we're gonna set up multi-streaming. So like, if I'm watching Colin, I'm like, oh man, Colin is so negative. I'm gonna switch to Joey Austin stream. It's like, no, Colin's still on that screen. Yeah. Now he's like talking. It's like, oh god, the negativity is just right there. I thought it was so funny. It's like,
well, no, because we'll do push to talk. Don't worry, guys.
We're not doing push to
talk. It won't be us talking over each other.
Maybe we'll do push to talk.
No, you have.
I'll do push to talk.
But yeah, this should be it. We're pretty much wrapping up and just
going.
So, but thanks you guys for supporting us, though. If you're like, I gotta go now, I'm not. They don't do Force of Will. That's perfectly fine. Thanks for supporting us up to this point. Like I said, we'll still do Force of Will in the sense of Wanderer and Conqueror and epic stories. If it comes up to it, we'll do box openings once in a while. But that'll be about it. But going forward, I'm really excited for some of the stuff we're doing. So be sure to follow us and follow the main TCG Scrubs Twitter also, because we'll be sure to try and compile different updates on there, as well as like if we have individual Twitters to follow us as well. I also might, and I'll be sure to update you guys. There is a chance I might be doing separate from my own personal channel on a separate channel, doing streaming on there as well. But that'll be more like political based. But if you're interested when that comes up, I'll be sure to mention it. But
yeah,
yeah,
we'll see you.